So, how long have you been living here?
I've been living here since November last year.
You moved from?
Sri Lanka.
Are you from there?
Yeah, I'm a Sri Lankan, and then I moved here for work.
Yeah. And what do you do exactly?
I work as a project officer for this network called Youth Voices Count. It's a network of young gay men and young transgender people in Asia and Pacific.
And the headquarters here?
Yeah, the secretariat is based here in Bangkok. For the moment, we have 66 members from 20 countries in the region.
So all Southeast Asia, I suppose?
No,
Brunei?
it's actually from all the 5 sub-regions in Asia Pacific. So we have members from South Asia, ASEAN, which is the insular Southeast Asian countries. We have from Greater Mekong, from developed Asia, and then the Pacific also.
But in Southeast Asia, all countries are part of it?
Not from all the we don't have members from all the countries, but we have members from Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, Malaysia.
Before talking about you had just started, I want to ask about if you have any information on human trafficking and sex work and trans general.
Especially when it comes to transgender people, they usually drop out of schools because they're perceived to be different, and then the whole family problems and school bullying, and then they go wherever they feel free, that they bunch up with other trans people, and because they can't find jobs, one reason is they don't have education. Second thing is they look different. Third thing is they don't have identity documents that actually reflects their true identity. There's this lot of abuses that takes place, and there's I think there's a lot of mental pressure as well, because the way that in this region, especially backed up by all the religious norms, that how you perceive sex work, and the whole stigma that is attached with you being a sex worker. So and the laws that we have in this region on sex work, I mean, there are obvious laws that criminalizes them, and there are other laws that actually make them, that actually helps police and other law enforcement authorities to arrest them, and then they confiscate condoms as proof. So it's a whole problem. So they use condoms because they want to protect themselves from all the diseases, but then that's the major proof against them as sex workers. This vagrancy ordinance was brought up by the British because they didn't want local people walking around the roads when the British were going. And then now that it is used against trans people, against sex workers as loitering and public nuisance, which is also in this region, I know. And a lot of migrants do engage in sex work because that's additional income, because there's a lot of expenses that they have here, especially because they don't have any family support, no financial support from families. And they can't access services because they're not legal migrants or legal employees here. So YVC has 3 advocacy priorities, and they were identified by our members during a consultation. So one is to address self-stigma among young gay men and young transgender people. Self-stigma in the sense, the low self-esteem, low self-confidence, and how would this connect and contribute to HIV vulnerabilities. So, a lot of young people feel low of themselves because they're gay or because they're transgender, and the whole cultural values of being a man and then being gay, and this contributes to build a lot of self-stigma more than societal stigma or discrimination. And then this actually has a lot of connections, and it contributes a lot to HIV vulnerabilities. That's one of our priorities. The second is to advocate for young gay and young transgender friendly health services, because a lot of countries have facility-based health services provided by the governments. But because of age and because of sexual orientation and gender identity, a lot of young people cannot access these services. One of the main reasons being the age of consent in this region. So if you need, and even if you know that you need services, you can't access because you need to have parental consent. And these young people are not going to tell their parents that they're gay and had sex with a man and therefore they want to go for a service. And the whole attitudes of the staff and these services being placed in, difficult to find locations, and most of the services are located in big cities, and young people need financial assistance to travel. So one of the priorities is actually to advocate to make these services more young gay and young transgender friendly. The third is to address societal stigma and discrimination generally, and capacity building of young people, young gay and young transgender people, to be leaders in their own communities, in their own countries, and also in the regional and global level is also one of our priorities.
Okay. I would like to hear a bit more about the first priority, how self-stigma relates to HIV.
When you grow up in this region, the cultural values, some countries are Buddhist, some countries are like Muslim, and then the Christian values and everything. So you grow up with these identities of being a proper man, being religiously right, and then also in the schools you have all these notions about, especially in the health part of in the health part of the school curriculum, about one of the ways of getting HIV is the homosexual behavior. What happens is this contributes to them feeling that whatever happens to them is fine because they do not deserve anything else because they are gay or because they are transgender. So even the violence they face at home, the violence and bullying they face at school, all this become normalized, and they start identifying themselves with them, and they don't see that that they can live without violence, that they can live without stigma or discrimination. It's obvious that people have sex, especially young people have sex, and then when they start having sex, these are really young people, adolescents, and sometimes even children. One thing is they're really scared to access them because one thing is that they will be out, and then they have to take their parents' consent, or guardians have to go with them to get themselves tested. All this then contributes to HIV because one of the main aspects of HIV prevention is testing and access to condoms and other prevention methods. But if you think yourself to be less than the others, and if you have problems talking to your parents about yourself or going to a clinic by yourself, you're not going to access any of these services no matter how much services are available. And then HIV becomes a really big problem within the young people. In the world, we have 4 million adolescents living with HIV. That's actually in the world, 6% of all people living with HIV are adolescents. And in Asia Pacific, 95% of new infections is among adolescents, young key populations. That's men who have sex with men, transgender people, people who use drugs, sex workers. We always tell that governments say that there's enough services available, and we advocate for more services. But if young people are self-stigmatized and if they discriminate themselves, they won't access the services, and then so self-stigma has a direct connection with HIV vulnerability.
Very clear. And out of this 95%, what's the percentage of lesbian of trans women?
Not really.
Sex men?
That's a really big problem we have in the whole world right now. We don't have disaggregated data, age, sex, and gender disaggregated data.
You talked about age of consent. Within Southeast Asia, is a different age of consent for same-sex activity and opposite sex?
Yeah, I mean, we actually can't talk about same-sex activities because it's criminalized in almost all countries, except for Thailand, because they don't have a law, and I think except for Vietnam. But we have a lot of countries in this region which are colonized by the British, so we still have their penal code. So in Singapore you have 377, which is the same in India, which is the same in Sri Lanka, which is called 365. But same-sex activities are criminalized. and therefore we can't talk about age of consent when it comes to same-sex activities, because we first need to decriminalize it. In many other countries, the age of consent differs, 16, 18, 20. In some countries, there's no proper reference to what is age of consent, and then this is obviously backed by the cultural values. Like, you're not supposed to have sex until you're married, which is not happening in anywhere. So we find that age of consent is one of the biggest barriers that young people actually face when it comes to accessing services, or in terms of speaking up for themselves. Like, when you start growing up and when you start recognizing that you're different to other people, whether you're attracted to men or you feel that you are a woman, one thing that you get to know is the law in your country criminalizes you for your feelings. And then, they actually don't speak up for themselves. They face all the stigma and discrimination, violence and bullying at school. But then, as I said earlier, it becomes part of you at one point. You
feel a criminal.
Yeah, you naturally internalize it, and that really contributes to self-stigma, because you become part of that violence. Violence become part of you, and you can't find any identity other than that. But I think social media in that sense has contributed a lot, because people now see what's happening elsewhere, how people are living their lives as gay people or as transgender people. Southeast Asia, something that I've noticed over the years is the whole migration of young people to big cities. Bangkok, Jakarta, Hanoi, so that's where young people can be gay. Young people can be transgender, but when they go back home, they have to be straight, or they have to be who they were back. Internal migration to be who you are into big cities, and also outside the countries, because there's a lot of young people coming to Thailand from Laos, from Myanmar, from Cambodia, because they see Bangkok as this free city where you can be who you are. It has its own problems. So in Southeast Asia, one of the biggest problems is this migration, and a lot of people are illegal migrants, and especially if you are a young person, you don't have money, and you are gay or you're transgender, you can't go and get yourself a work permit. So all these young people who migrate to big cities thinking that they are free and nice and that they can be who they are in these cities face a lot of problems. And then the other problem is they don't have homes here. I mean, like, few people live together, but then the whole problem of homeless young LGBT people in these big cities, it's a big discussion in US, in Western countries, but it's not addressed in this region, especially in Southeast Asia and in other parts as well. If you just ask young people whether they have a home, they would say yes. But then, there's a difference between being in a home and difference between living in a room with a bunch of people. So those are the stuff.
What about mental health issues or suicide? Or?
Suicide is a big problem as well. So everything gets connected, all interconnected, because self-stigma is one of the main reasons a lot of people to suicide, and also that contributes to people being homeless, having no money, migrating into big cities, self-stigma, being gay or transgender. This directs them to do whatever to get money. So if people offer more money for sex without condoms, if people offer more money to sex with drugs, they just say okay, because it's a good way of getting money. And because these people can't access services, and then the whole stigma that is attached to HIV positive, backed up by because you're young, backed up by because of your sexual orientation or gender identity, a lot of people see suicide as one of the best options. But South Asia, a lot of young people, because of family pressure, I mean, you just see people committing suicide.
One thing that talking about HIV that I've heard, and in the West as well, the new parties and circuit parties, and that this is becoming like an enemy.
No, I wouldn't say it's an enemy. You said enemy, right?
Yes.
No, I don't think they're enemies, but they are really real opportunities. So the G circuit parties in Bangkok during Songkran is massive. Huge amounts of gay men coming in, having all these parties, and a lot of group sex happening afterwards, after the parties, which is actually an opportunity. So APCOM does this program called Test PKK, that they're planning also to do it in Test Hanoi, Test Jakarta. What they do is it's a very social media and visual media based campaign. They promote condoms and testing. So G Circuit parties is one of the main events where they actually promote it. And they partnered with the party organizers. We had a booth in every party where so it's not just giving condoms to telling them about testing. So we have all these tattoos and models promoting it, and then these small waterproof packages that the packs that they can put phones and towels and everything. And their slogan is suck, fuck, test, repeat, which is very positive. So we are not asking you to stop doing anything, but we're just saying do whatever you want, but also do testing. We actually can't stop people having sex or people doing whatever they want, but we can provide them with necessary stuff so that they can protect themselves. And Thai Red Cross this year they launched this campaign called Prep 30. That is, they're providing post-exposure prophylaxis. Why I said that it's an opportunity is that it's not only people from Thailand who come to those parties. Like people from all over the world, and especially in this region. So people from the Southeast Asian countries fly here. So this spreads back to their countries. I mean, HIV spreads back to their countries, but also this message also go with them. The idea of testing, the idea of PrEP, the idea of using condoms, and condoms being something fun.
Yeah, for me it seems that there is a lot of risk, and you are finding smart ways of fighting those risks and making those risks less risky.
Yeah, I mean, we've been telling people to use condoms since when?
Yes.
But people still choose to have sex without condoms. You can just stop it. Like, people anyway have sex. So the best thing is to make the best out of it and make it an opportunity.
Yeah, but do you have any information on the efficiency of these?
The monitoring and evaluation of the program is going on.
In opposed to the HIV rising?
I'm not sure whether that is done or whether there are any data available to say that actually it has been successful. The rates have gone down. But one thing I can say is that a lot of people in in Bangkok especially, are accessing PrEP now.
Yes.
It's only Thailand where we can buy PrEP in this region, and it's really cheap. So, and it is a really good, one of the best tools against HIV.
Any insights on PrEP? Because I talked to someone else already about PrEP, and I asked about the stigma that comes with PrEP.
Yeah, the whole Truadaho and the PrEP slut, and now you're going to have more bareback sex because you use PrEP.
Yeah.
So as a young person, what I see in PrEP is a sense of empowerment that it gives you, not to go and have sex, but it's being proactive for your health, not being reactive, and there's this concept called shared responsibility that is being discussed in the HIV movement now. So shared responsibility of two people, of if a person is living with HIV, his responsibility not to spread it to somebody else, and a person who's negative to stop getting it. And this goes across all into the organizational level, to the policy level, and everything. The concept of shared responsibility. So,
which is a very discussed one among persons living with HIV.
Yeah. So, for me, taking PrEP is that you have actively taken care of yourself, and you have actually taken a step to add an additional layer of protection so that you are actually safe. And one thing we know is that, I mean, all of us are beings of feelings and emotions. And, you know, you go to a party, you get a little tipsy, and you find a cute guy, and you really want to do it. And at those times, you're like, you know, I don't care whether I have a condom or not. I just want to do it. And the other thing is about PrEP and the zero discordant relationships, where like a negative and a positive person is in a relationship. So if the positive person is on ARV and is in undetectable viral loads, and the negative partner is on PrEP, and on top of it a condom, means that you're okay, you don't have to worry. And the whole taking out the whole idea of, you know, you have sex with somebody and then you're like, oh, did I get anything, or I need to go for testing. So, you know, having fearless sex is again something
it's possible.
Yeah, it's something that PrEP gives. So by no means we are advocating for condom-less sex because you are having PrEP. It's a really good tool in the toolbox, and it's your choice to choose whatever tool you need. So you can use many tools as you want.
We're gonna switch a bit to who you are, what you like.
So I'm from Sri Lanka. I'm 26 years old, and I come from not a conservative family, but you know, generally Sri Lanka is conservative. But I'm not originally from the capital city, but I'm actually from the city that is called the cultural capital of the country. I have two elder brothers. I'm out to my family, and I've been working in the field, like in the HIV and LGBT rights, since 2010.
And talking about it coming out, how was it?
So coming out in like I actually came out to myself when I was 17, because the whole coming out to yourself is also a very difficult process. That was the point that I actually decided, okay, I'm gay and I don't have to worry about it. It's not a problem. I don't have to go to this hypnotism or anything and change myself. And then when I was about 21, 22, I came out to my friends in the university. When I came out to them, like, they were furious. Not because I was gay, but because I didn't come out to them earlier. They were like, we could have understood you. I mean, it's nothing. So that was really good. I mean, I never expected that reaction from them. So it was reassuring, and three of us are really good friends, even now. And coming out to my family was a little difficult, because I have two elder brothers, and my father passed away about 7-8 years ago. So I was mama's boy all the time, you know, working with my mother, and I was the good one. I was the one who has to go to university. So they had a lot of expectations from me. So we had a little bit of problems for about 2 years, where I actually moved out from home, and I had to stop connections with my brothers, but I had connections with my mother. I think what they wanted, that they were scared of, was that I would ruin myself. I would not get into a career. I would not get my degree done. You know, all of that. But when they see that I was getting established, I'm being successful, and now I'm here, and like I'm traveling everywhere. So it was reassurance for them that, you know, they could not associate being gay and ruining one's life. But that's what they have seen in many cases: people being gay and having a lot of sex, you know, getting HIV and dying, and not having houses and not being successful in their careers. But like what happened to me really gave them an assurance that I'm going to be like successful, I'm going to be the same person. So later on, we got on well. My mother visited me for 1 month here, and I was like, at the end of it, just go now, I'm enough. But now everything is okay. Everything has settled down.
I have a few friends that didn't have the chance to come out to their fathers, right? And was that your case? Or?
No. I mean, he passed away way before I came out to my family. But I don't know how he would take it. He's a kind of nice guy, so he would have... I don't know. I actually can't tell you how it would have been. Maybe he would have been really rough and completely, you know, he would have cut me off. But he could have been the guy who would, you know, accept me in one go. I think one of the biggest problems as like anybody and especially young people face in coming out is there's obviously a lot of pressure for young people to come out. That's not from their families or anything, but from what they see outside, like the films, like the advertisements, like all the social media videos, everything. There's a lot of pressure built up, so that they have, like, there's a feeling of I have to come out. If I don't, I'm less of a gay man. The proper gay man have to come out to the family, even if it means that they have to go out. And moving on from home is sort of like the big thing to do. Oh, I came out to my family, now I'm living alone, my family don't support me. So
That's your perspective for the region, or?
no, I mean, generally, I'm like working with a lot of young people and talking to them about it. So I think there's a lot of discussion now happening about what is to be gay. On the other hand, coming out for a young person is really difficult, because obviously in this region we are trying to incorporate all these US and Western concepts. You see gay marriages taking place and you're like, I want to do it at one point, and then when you go back home, it's this conservative home where you pray, or you say Jesus said that two men can't sleep, or Buddhism is like this, or in Islam it's an abomination or something like that. And then where are you going to place yourself?
Cars food.
Yeah? We're talking too much, I guess.
No, it's very interesting.
Yeah.